Hi, Stuart Servitor from ibidPREP coming to you with StuTube 3. I had thought that I would have this talk follow the trajectory of my book as the other two had started with, but I'm going to interrupt that flow to talk today about remote learning because I read something yesterday that kind of drove me batty. I was reading in the Times an article about how things are going to change as a result of the pandemic, how New York City is going to change, and obviously these are very real questions. But buried inside the article was a little line that mentioned that, quote unquote, remote learning has proven to be ineffective. It wasn't a quote from a source, it was the journalist's written statement, which struck me as not very good journalism, but also uh, bald-faced inaccurate. It hasn't proven to be anything. We've been doing it, on a serious level uh, as a nation or as a state, as a city for 3 months. Other places, other colleges have been doing it for a long time with obviously not ineffective results. Also, what troubles me about that statement was that it's one of those things that's rapidly becoming commonly accepted. Sort of like when the Common Core was rolled out and the phrase teaching to the test became the mantra. And so what happened was people started teaching to the test. Not necessary for the Common Core. Common Core could have been adjusted. Common Core tests could have been adjusted. Teachers could have been kind of removed. Teacher evaluations could have been removed from the equation so that teachers wouldn't feel compelled to teach on the test, but that's another matter for another time. My point here is that this feeling that remote learning doesn't work uh, is not so productive, especially as it seems to be in our future in one way or another. Um, it also risks becoming fait accompli, like teaching to the test did. I think remote learning can be very effective if certain protocols are followed, uh, just like in-person learning can be very ineffective if certain protocols are not followed, as is often the case. So there's dangers and also uh, advantages to be taken on with any kind of learning situation. So I'm just going to run through very quickly a few protocols, and we're doing talks with ibidPREP, live Zoom talks that will expand on this, but the basic idea is twofold, and it comes from both sides. It comes from the teacher side, and it comes from the parent home side. Teachers have a responsibility to hold students' interest and be aware when they're losing it. Obviously, the more students, the more difficult that becomes. But you can tell. You can check in on your students. You can require that they be in frame and on mic. And if they're not, you call them out on it. And if they continue to be that way, you kick them out. Which works for different situations differently, but you have to keep them engaged. And it's not just making sure they're in frame, it's making sure what you're teaching them is actually gripping them. You call on them, you don't bore them, you don't lecture. You're constantly asking them questions and not just picking on the students who know the answer. And you're helping them to find the answer. You're drawing them out, which is the rules we use for classrooms, but they're more important for in-person remote tutoring. It's more intense with remote tutoring because you're trying to hold things right here. They're not physically present. They're not having a responsibility. So classes should be a little shorter, or they should feature breaks. We also have our teachers share their screens, share a whiteboard. It's a little difficult using the tracking pad to write, but we are getting better at it. Some of us less so. But we are looking for ways to make the screen a little more interactive as well. Because, and now we're going to move to the parent side of the equation, kids can be rather engaged by screens and for a long time. One of the early excuses when we were dealing with this was that a kid can't focus on the screen that long. I've never met a kid who can't focus on the screen for a pretty long time. So it's really a question of parents, not buying certain excuses, but Here's a more important list of things parents can do. Most of all, treat it as much as possible. I understand some of us are cramped in apartments, some of us are on top of each other, some of us are limited wireless. I understand all the problems with it, but as much as possible, treat it the same way you treat your professional meetings if you're working remotely. Have your student have a place, one place. You don't want them walking around with their computer during the session. You want to make your tutors vomit? Have your kid walk around with the camera shaking in their hands. One place, not a lot of requirements there, just one place, pencil, paper, that's a big item, calculator if necessary, that's what they're working on. Maybe have their water there, have all the online documents already open on the screen. What do I mean by already? I mean all these things should be taken care of before your student sits down to the computer. Now, you may be doing 1,000 other things and this may not be possible, but try just yelling at your kid 10 minutes before the session, do you have everything? It will save a lot of time, a lot of back and forth shuttling, a lot of their own learning time. So you're not spending half the lesson watching your student get up and ready or having your student get up and ready. Have your student wear headphones. And again, if they're going to wear headphones, they should be with them at the beginning of the meeting. Why headphones? Because not every family, not every parent, not every grandparent takes the kids' time being tutored so seriously. They walk through, they yell things, they listen in. We don't like that. Listening in is not helping because it's an intimate relationship, okay? And the kid has to feel free to admit to certain ignorances, and the tutor has to feel comfortable prodding or pushing or saying certain things that to a parent's ear might sound a little troubling. So there's this triangle that often goes on where the parent listens in, and the tutor doesn't always know. It's just not good. The other reason for the earphones is because families make noise, people make noise, and it's very distracting for everybody. So please, if possible, it doesn't have to be the, $200 Bose sound canceling headphones. It could just be the cheap little, earphones, earbuds that come with a phone or anything else. Everyone has them. If you don't, let me know. I'll send you some. And that's really it. That is really, really it. And tell your student to stay off of email, Snapchat, Instagram, text messaging, and their phones. Get them a computer if possible. Don't have them try to work on the phone and look at tests on the phone and look at documents on the phone. It's just too small, if it's all possible. If not, we'll work with the phone. We'll work with whatever you give us. But these certain requirements will make the remote learning experience much better. You'll put it in our court and we'll do our best. So if you want to make this work, if you want your kid to keep learning, it can be done. And some kids thrive with remote learning, and we hope your student will as well. Thank you very much. We'll see you again for StuTube 4 whenever I get around to it. Take care.